Close your eyes and drift with me. Back, beyond the centuries, beyond the ruins and the dust of the empire. Back to a time when marble still gleamed and power whispered through perfumed gardens. It is the Ides of March, 44 years before the Common Era, and the sun rises slowly over Rome. Welcome to Ancient Mysteries for Sleep. I'm your guide through the shadows of history, and tonight we journey to one of the most pivotal mornings in human civilization. A morning when friendship would shatter, when the fate of an empire would be decided not in battle, but in betrayal. This is not just the story of Julius Caesar's assassination. It is the story of a city holding its breath, of omens ignored and warnings unheeded, of 23 wounds that would echo through eternity. Let us walk together through the final hours of the man who thought himself immortal. Golden light slips across terracotta rooftops and spills into narrow alleyways. It kisses the shoulders of statues and stretches shadows long across the forum. Somewhere within the city, within the great villa atop the Palatine Hill, a man awakens. His name is Gaius Julius Caesar. He is not just a man. He is Dictator Perpetuo, the perpetual ruler of Rome, a general, a writer, a reformer, a tyrant, a god to some, a devil to others. But now, in this moment, he is just a man in his bed. The linen sheets are heavy. His chest rises, falls. He stares at the painted ceiling above him, and something ancient and unknowable lingers in the stillness. His wife Calpurnia lies beside him. She does not speak, but her breath is shallow. She has not slept well. He turns his head slowly and sees the worry written on her brow. The dreams were vivid, the visions unsettling. Blood in the courtyard, a statue weeping. His own body, pale and crumpled at the foot of Pompey's great marble portico. She begs him, do not go. Not today. Not on the Ides. But Caesar is not a man of omens, or so he tells himself. He swings his legs from the bed. The floor is cold. Somewhere in the villa, the sound of sandals echo on marble. Servants beginning their work. Bronze pitchers filled with warm water. Towels pressed and folded. But the silence lingers, and the sun still climbs. He stands before a mirror of polished bronze. The lines on his face are deeper than last year, but the eyes are sharp. The nose is proud. The jaw is like carved stone. He wraps himself in the white toga of a Roman statesman. Its folds fall with careful precision. Today, he wears it without the purple trim, a nod to humility, or perhaps a disarming gesture. There are whispers already in the city. Senators plot, allies murmur, and yet Caesar walks calmly. He accepts the figs brought to him, eats them slowly. The sweetness clings to his tongue. He thinks of his legacy, of the laws he's passed, the lands he's claimed, the enemies he's crushed, and somewhere in the distance, a raven cries. Rome stirs. The streets begin to swell with life. Vendors shout. Wheels rattle over stone. A slave boy runs with scrolls clutched to his chest. A priest marks chalk symbols on a wall, muttering softly to the gods. But within the villa, the air remains heavy. A letter rests unopened on his desk. An urgent hand delivered it before sunrise. It warned of betrayal, of blades hidden beneath cloaks, of men who smile too easily. But Caesar has not read it. His mind drifts to Egypt, to Cleopatra, to the Nile and the stars and the sweet, warm nights. But Rome is not Egypt. Rome is cold, unforgiving, even beneath a golden sky. He steps out into the peristyle garden. Fountains murmur. A columned walkway curves around a bed of herbs and white roses, and yet he hesitates. His heart pounds, just once, harder than usual. He breathes and walks forward. For this is how fate works. Not with thunder, not with fire, but with the smallest moments, a missed glance, a letter unread, a dream forgotten. The sun has risen, the day has begun, and Julius Caesar walks into history. The city is not yet fully awake. Rome, vast and ancient, even in its youth, exhales gently in the blue shadow of early morning. The sky above is still streaked with stars, faded now, but stubborn. The moon hangs low, pale as bone. Somewhere, a temple bell tolls once a deep, sonorous sound that rolls across rooftops and sinks between marble columns. It is a sound meant for the gods. But tonight, even the gods seem quiet. Down in the Subura, the tangled maze of alleys and tenements, a stray dog noses through a broken basket. A wine jug tips. The scent of spoiled olives fills the air. A beggar pulls his cloak tighter and shifts against the stones. Sleep has not come easily to him, nor to the city, because something is wrong. Not loud, not named, not yet, but it lingers, like the taste of iron, like the breath before a storm. Rome is holding her breath. From the Capitoline Hill to the banks of the Tiber, the streets are heavy with whispers. Faint as the wind, soft as the hush of sandals on stone, but everywhere. In bakeries and bathhouses, atriums and alleyways. Questions murmur at the edges of conversations. Did you hear what Cassius said? Why is Brutus so pale these days? Why does Trebonius walk with his head so low? And why, they ask, has Caesar summoned no Senate today? But the Senate has summoned him. That detail, carefully obscured, spreads now in fragments. A meeting not his own, hosted not in the Curia, but in Pompey's great theater. An unusual place for politics, and even more unusual, the secrecy. Torches flicker beneath the archways. Guards shift beside temple gates. Messengers whisper instructions. Somewhere, in the shadows of a portico, two figures exchange a scroll. No words, just a nod. Then silence. In the narrow street outside the house of Brutus, oil lamps burn low in bronze holders. Their glow paints long amber streaks across the pavement. Within the villa, the scent of ink and wax drifts from the study. The room is dim, lit only by one lamp, and by the eyes of the man who sits hunched over his desk. Marcus Junius Brutus, philosopher, senator, stoic, traitor. His fingers tremble slightly as he folds the letter once more. He's read it 3 times. Each word sears like hot ash. You were not born to kneel, Brutus. You were born to restore the Republic. The handwriting is familiar, sharp, precise. Cassius, always Cassius, a man with fire in his voice and venom in his smile. Brutus exhales, slowly. He sets the scroll aside and closes his eyes. He sees his father, long dead, executed by Pompey the Great for rebellion. He sees his mother, Servilia proud, iron-willed, the longtime lover of Caesar. He sees Caesar himself, a man he has admired, debated, even called a friend. And now? Now he is being asked to raise a blade against him, not in passion, not for revenge, but for Rome, for the Senate, for the idea that no man should wear a crown. His stomach churns, not from guilt, not yet, but from the weight of history. Brutus is a man carved from marble, but tonight, even stone weeps in the dark. In the room beyond, his wife Portia stirs in her sleep. She has seen the change in him, felt it, heard it in the silence between their words. She knows something is coming, but she does not yet know what. And Brutus cannot tell her, not because he does not trust her, but because if he says it aloud, the world will change. Forever. Elsewhere, in the home of Gaius Cassius Longinus, another candle burns low. Cassius is awake, eyes sharp, mind restless. He has never needed much sleep. Not since the wars. Not since Pharsalus. His hands are ink-stained and twitching with anticipation. He moves like a man in the final verse of a long-practiced poem. He checks the roster, the names of those who have sworn allegiance. Senators, tribunes, officers. Not many. Not enough to raise an army, but enough to end a life. Each one has a reason. Each one has a grievance. A brother exiled, a law repealed, an insult endured, and beneath it all, the fear. The fear that Caesar means to crown himself king. A title forbidden, a title hated, and yet, a title that echoes louder with each passing day. Cassius rolls up the parchment, ties it with twine, steps out into the atrium where shadows flicker against the walls. The torchlight dances across his face, and for a moment, he smiles. It is not a kind smile. Rome breathes, not like a city, but like a beast. Slow, watchful, ancient. Its stone lungs expand with every cart that rattles down the cobblestones, with every priest who whispers beneath an archway, with every grain of incense that curls skyward from bronze braziers. It is morning now, truly morning. The sun sits higher, burning white through a veil of mist, and Rome wakes with secrets in her teeth. In the market of cattle, the Forum Boreum men haggle over fish brought up the Tiber. Barrels creak, scales clink. A senator's slave elbows through the crowd, clutching a pouch of silver. Behind him, 2 women argue over the price of imported pepper. But above them, from the balcony of a taberna, a man watches. He sees everything, and he says nothing. His name is unknown to most, but he listens for coin. For days now he's followed a certain pattern. Senators who never used to speak now gathering in corners. Whispers exchanged in alleys after dusk. Men arriving with guards and leaving without them. He leans back against the wall, his cup half full, his eyes on the marble steps of the Temple of Portunus. The gods of the river are quiet today. Across the forum, a boy runs barefoot, chased by a dog. The laughter is sharp, short. It rings off the colonnades and dances through the space like a breath of joy. But beneath that sound, the whispers still grow. Tavern owners hear them. Bakers hear them. And the women who sit on shaded steps, pounding herbs in mortar bowls, they hear them too. Have you heard? Caesar will not return from the theater. I heard Brutus is involved. No Cassius. Both. The gods are angry. The omens are everywhere. They whisper of earthquakes in Sicily, of a statue that bled in the temple of Jupiter, of lightning that split a fig tree behind the rostra. No one says the word. No one dares speak it aloud. But it hangs in the air like the scent of burning myrrh. Murder. Atop the Capitoline Hill, the temple of Jupiter watches. Its columns scrape the sky. Its bronze doors gleam in the light. Within, offerings have already been laid this morning: figs, oil, a white dove. The augurs came at dawn. They traced the entrails of a ram, watched the birds, read the wind, and quietly, without ceremony, they left. They will not return today. One of them, an old man, eyes milky with age, muttered as he walked away, "No offering will soothe what's already begun." In the house of the Vestals, silence reigns. The flame still burns eternal, sacred, untouched. But the youngest Vestal, barely 14, wakes from a nightmare. She had seen blood pouring down the steps of the Senate. A raven perched on Caesar's shoulder, a shadow standing behind Brutus. She weeps, but tells no one. For even in fear, she's faithful. Even in dreams, the gods speak in riddles. Down the Via Sacra, toward the Palatine, an old widow sweeps her stoop. She's lived here her whole life, watched emperors rise and fall, She knows the rhythm of the city, the way it breathes and shifts. And something is wrong. The pigeons didn't land on the rooftops this morning. The bakery opened late. Even the beggars seem quiet. She pauses, looking up at the palace in the distance. The marble gleams, the columns shimmer, but she feels it. A storm coming, not in the sky, in the hearts of men. At the baths of Agrippa, steam rises like ghosts. Wealthy men soak in silence, their attendants close. No one discusses politics. Not today. The water may be hot, but the air is colder. One man lifts a hand, his voice is low. He named himself perpetual dictator. The Senate barely blinked. Another grunts. This city has always belonged to strong men. But even strong men die. A third says nothing. He's already made his choice, and the dagger beneath his cloak knows it. In a shaded courtyard, a philosopher reads aloud to a circle of students. Seneca's words drift through the air. He who fears death will never do anything worthy of a man who is alive. The students nod. Some scribble notes, but one, a quiet boy with ink-stained fingers, looks up toward the sky. He feels uneasy. The words are true, but today they feel like prophecy. Near the theater of Pompey, vendors prepare their stalls. Fruits, bread, oils, wine. They don't know what's coming. Not truly. But the guards posted at the entrance that's strange. The hush of important men passing through without their usual escort, stranger still. A litter passes. Within it, a senator fingers a ring over and over again. He knows this road well, but today it feels longer, heavier. What if he bleeds quickly? What if he cries out? He clenches his jaw, repeats Cassius's words in his mind. He must fall quickly, decisively, no hesitation. But his hands still shake. Rome continues to breathe, a city of marble and mud, of temples and taverns, of poets and poisoners. And today, every breath it takes feels tighter, every footstep more deliberate, every voice lower. The very walls seem to lean closer, listening. The streets are warmer now. Rome hums with motion. The stillness of dawn has passed, and the city begins to sway with its rhythm, a rhythm that has played out for centuries, and yet today carries a strange, taut undercurrent. Footsteps echo louder. Conversations pause more quickly. Even the birds above the forum seem hesitant. On the Palatine Hill, Julius Caesar steps from the shadows of his villa into the full light of morning. His toga is crisp, his face unreadable. Behind him, slaves and attendants murmur and move with the precision of ceremony. He walks slowly, not from fear, not from age, but from thought. Every step he takes is a step toward destiny. Calpurnia watches from the doorway, eyes rimmed red. She has said all she can say, pleaded, warned, cried, but no tears can alter the orbit of the sun. No voice, no matter how desperate, can turn Caesar from his path. He walks with only a few men, not his full guard, not his lictors bearing axes, just loyal aides, quiet and alert. The villa gates open with a groan. Outside, the street stretches like a ribbon of marble and dust. Vendors begin to stir, priests sprinkle salt on thresholds. Children play with wooden hoops, laughter ringing through narrow lanes. But there is something beneath it all, a silence behind the sound, a question hidden in the breath of the city. Does Caesar feel it? He does not show it. They descend the Palatine slowly. The slope is gentle but ancient, worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. The air smells of olive wood and sun-warmed stone. They pass shrines where offerings smoke. Statues of the gods gaze down with blind eyes. A soothsayer leans from his stool, muttering something, but Caesar does not hear him. Or perhaps he chooses not to. He is deep in thought. He thinks of Rome, not the city of stone and blood before him, but the vision he has carved with his hands. A Rome reborn. A republic made strong beneath a single will, his will. He does not believe in kings, but he believes in power. And power, he has learned, is not taken once. It must be taken again and again in action, in law, in silence. He adjusts the folds of his toga. His mind drifts to Cleopatra, to the Nile, to the nights heavy with perfume and stars. For a moment, he is not in Rome. But the moment passes. The sound of sandals on stone pulls him back. His aides speak in low voices, glancing toward the forum ahead. The sacred way lies before them now. The Via Sacra, Rome's most hallowed road. Lined with triumphal arches and temples, it is the spine of the empire, the path of processions and generals and gods. Today it bears the weight of fate. They pass the arch of Titus. A beggar bows low, a vendor holds his breath. A group of boys whisper and point. "That's him," one says. "That's Caesar." But Caesar hears none of it. He is listening to a voice inside himself, a voice he cannot name, a voice that speaks not in words, but in shadows. Do not go. Turn back. But he does not. At the temple of Castor and Pollux, an old man limps forward. He carries a scroll. His hands tremble. He raises the letter toward Caesar. "Read this," he pleads. "It is urgent. But Caesar waves him away. "Later," he says. He does not stop walking. The scroll falls to the ground. The theater of Pompey rises ahead. It stands like a monument to irony grand, serene, and soon to be soaked in blood. Built by the man Caesar defeated, it has long since become a place of culture, of art, of philosophical discourse. But today, it is something else. Today, it is a trap. Within its portico, the senators gather. One by one, cloaks tight, eyes wary. They do not speak much. The air is thick with dread. Brutus arrives last among them. His face is pale, his steps slow. He does not greet the others. He cannot meet their eyes. He sees the statue of Pompey, cold, towering, the place where it will happen. He feels sick. Back on the road, Caesar approaches the theater. He passes the porticus of Octavia. The steps glint in the sun. Birds scatter from the eaves. A woman drops her basket at the sight of him. A small boy bows. Caesar does not notice. He is thinking of the stars, of his youth, of the dream he had last night, a lion on the steps of the Curia, a sky without a moon. He does not believe in omens. And yet, his heart beats louder. One of his aides leans in. "They say the Senate awaits you already, dictator." Caesar nods. He looks once toward the Capitoline Hill. Then he walks on. Within the theater, a silence settles. The senators stand arranged not by rank, but by role, by intention. Decimus near the door. Trebonius near the side. Cassius, closest to the chair. Each one carries a dagger, hidden, ready. Their faces are calm, but beneath the calm, fire. They hear the footsteps. Caesar is coming. Outside, the birds cry. The street is quiet, and Rome holds her breath. Caesar climbs the steps. It is dark within, cool and quiet. The air smells of old stone and oil. His sandals echo. He is welcomed by Decimus, an ally, a betrayer, a man whose smile is a mask. They guide him toward the center. The theater of Pompey is a stage, and the players are all in place. Soon, the play will begin. The theater of Pompey stands like a monument to memory, proud, serene, and unaware that it is about to become a wound carved into the flesh of history. Outside, the sun continues its slow climb indifferent. Light strikes the marble columns and turns them gold. Birds swirl above the rooftops. Life continues. But within the portico, men prepare to end it. They arrive one by one, like shades summoned from the underworld. Cloaks drawn close, faces unreadable. Each man carries more than a dagger. He carries years of resentment, of wounded pride, of whispered dreams of a Rome reclaimed from one man's hand. Cassius is among the first. His footsteps are steady, but his jaw clenches tightly. He greets no one at first. He merely walks the perimeter, eyeing the statue of Pompey in the center of the hall. That cold, unmoving idol will bear witness, just as it did to the rise and fall of the Republic. Then comes Decimus, younger, handsome, trusted. His betrayal will cut deepest. They nod in silence. By the time Brutus arrives, the sun has fully touched the theater's fade. He walks slower than usual, not from uncertainty, but from the unbearable weight of conviction. He still wears the ring given to him by Caesar, a symbol of trust, a gift once accepted with pride. Now, it burns against his skin. Inside, the marble floor is cool. The room is vast. The shadows are long. Each senator stands apart, as if uncertain how close they can stand without revealing too much. There is no laughter. There are no greetings, only the sound of breath. The meeting has not begun, but the plot is already in motion. The marble beneath their sandals has seen centuries of footsteps, triumphs, debates, votes that shaped empires, but none so heavy as this. Cassius paces slowly along the inner wall. His mind calculates every moment, every movement. Where Caesar will enter. Who will strike first? How many seconds they'll have before the guards hear something. He knows Caesar must die quickly, cleanly, brutally. There is no room for poetry. Brutus stands near the columns, fingers tracing the edge of his robe. He does not speak. Not yet. His silence carries more than fear. It holds conflict, the ache of a man divided. His honor is torn between what Rome demands and what friendship forbids. Cinna leans against the wall, sweating despite the cool air. His hands twitch. He has never killed anyone. He repeats a prayer under his breath, not to the gods, but to his father. Forgive me. It is for the Republic. Then there is Casca Blunt, impatient, unshaken. He checks the small blade tucked beneath his sash. He will be the first to strike. He has said as much, and no one argued. They whisper in pairs, not loud, just close enough to rehearse what comes next. Mark Antony must be distracted. Trebonius knows what to do. And if Caesar reads the letter? He won't. He never does. Are we sure he comes? He comes. Outside, the crowd thickens. Citizens gather near the portico, hoping to see the dictator. Some cheer, some only watch. An old woman clutches a charm in her hand, a tiny bronze effigy of Mercury. She doesn't know why, but something grips her heart. A child tugs at his father's hand. Why are they all here? He asks. To watch history, the man answers, without knowing how true his words will be. Within the theater, time slows. Every voice is quieter now. Every breath is measured. The shadows stretch longer across the floor. And the statue of Pompey stands still and silent, its stone face unreadable. Decimus speaks first. He's close. The conspirators stiffen. A ripple moves through them, not panic readiness. Brutus closes his eyes. He sees again the look on Caesar's face, not the one from this morning, not the one in memory, but the one he imagines will come when the blade enters his side. Betrayal, confusion, perhaps recognition. He opens his eyes again and waits. Outside, Caesar approaches. The air around him is thick with motion aids, officials, petitioners, but his pace remains even. He passes the arch of the theater, passes the fountains, passes Trebonius, who bows low and murmurs something into his ear. "Antony seeks a word," he says. Caesar nods, turns slightly, and in that small moment, the stage is set. Inside, the men shift positions. Casca stands closest to Caesar's designated chair. Decimus moves beside the entrance. Cinna pretends to examine the columns. Brutus walks forward, each step louder than the last. Cassius exhales once, then hides the breath behind a cough. The doors open. Light spills into the hall, and Julius Caesar enters. He is calm, radiant even. His presence fills the space as it always has, without effort, without announcement. He glances over the assembled senators and offers a faint smile. Some return it, most do not. He walks to the center of the chamber. Pompey's statue watches. A senator hands him a scroll. He does not read it. Another man kneels, speaks of a brother's exile, begs for clemency. Caesar waves him off. "We will speak of it later." But there is no later. Casca steps behind him. Brutus draws nearer. The men form a half-circle natural to the eye, deadly on purpose. Caesar senses it not in words, but in the air. Something shifts, a silence too deep, a glance held too long. He turns, and the first blade strikes. Casca's hand is clumsy. The wound is shallow, but it is enough. Caesar gasps not in pain, but in disbelief. What is this? Then another blade. Cinna, then Cassius. Chaos erupts, and yet it is silent. No screams, just grunts, just motion. Caesar staggers backward, arms raised. He sees Brutus now, sees the dagger, sees the face, and he does not plead. He only asks, with a voice full of sorrow, "Et tu, Brute?" Then he falls, beneath the statue of Pompey, and the marble drinks his blood. The hall is still. Every breath is gone. The conspirators step back, their robes stained red. Brutus stares at the floor. Cassius whispers, "It is done." Outside, the city has not yet heard the sound of history breaking, but it will. Soon. Blood spreads across the marble like spilled wine, inching toward the hem of Brutus's robe. He stares at it, at Caesar, at the stillness of a man who was once the loudest voice in Rome. His dagger drips, his hand shakes. The hall is still silent. No cheer, no proclamation, no declaration of a republic restored. Cassius leans against a column, catching his breath. His eyes dart toward the entrance. "Trebonius! Where is Antony?" "Still outside," Decimus replies, voice hoarse. "He never made it past the gate." Brutus turns slowly, almost as if waking from a fever dream. His voice is barely above a whisper. "We must go to the forum. Speak to the people." "They will cheer us," Cassius says, but there is doubt in his tone. Cinna steps back from the body, looking at the stains spreading across Caesar's robes. "He didn't cry out," he murmurs. "Not once." Casca wipes his blade on the edge of his tunic. It doesn't matter now. He's dead. Rome breathes again. But Rome does not breathe. Not yet. In the streets outside, the crowd still waits. A rumble passes through them, not of chariots or feet, but of silence falling like ash. They do not yet know, but they sense it. A tremor in the air, a bird flying low, a soldier glancing toward the theater and making the sign against evil. Mark Antony hears the first whispers before he sees the blood. A boy running, a woman screaming, a guard stumbling from the portico with his face pale and his voice caught in his throat. Antony does not enter the theater. Not yet. He knows better than to walk into a trap. He turns and runs. Inside, Brutus kneels, not beside Caesar, but beside himself. He does not cry. He does not pray. He simply breathes. Deep, long breaths, as if he might draw all the air in the chamber into his lungs and exhale something better. Cassius touches his shoulder. We must go. Brutus nods, stands, wipes his blade, hides it again. The conspirators move toward the door, not together, but one by one. Some with heads high, some with eyes downcast. The body remains. Pompey's statue stands above it still, and the sun, now overhead, turns the floor to gold. Close your eyes and come with me, back into the hall where history cracked not with thunder, not with fire, but with silence. We are still in Rome, still on the Ides of March, but now the daggers have fallen, and the echoes have only just begun. The floor is marble, cold, stained. Red spreads beneath the statue of Pompey like a second cloak beneath Caesar's crumpled form. His limbs are twisted strangely. One sandal is missing. The folds of his white toga are soaked through, as if the very fabric of power could not hold back the tide. Around him, the men who wielded those knives stand frozen, not in triumph, not in relief, but in something far older, the kind of stillness that grips a man's soul, just after the lightning but before the thunder. Brutus stares at the body. His dagger is still in his hand. The blood has dried in patches along the hilt. He does not remember how tightly he gripped it, only that he could not let go. Not when the moment came. Not even now. Cassius is the first to move, just a step, just enough to hear the soft squelch of blood beneath his foot. He does not flinch. He merely looks down at the stain as if trying to judge whether the gods will read it as justice or sacrilege. No one speaks. Not at first. Not when the hall is so full of ghosts. Cinna leans against a column, his breath shallow. His lips move not in words, but in prayer. Not to the gods above, but to the father he once disappointed. It was for the Republic, he whispers, but even he does not believe it yet. Decimus wipes his blade against the inside of his cloak. He will burn the cloth later. He will say it was torn in travel, but today it clings to him like guilt, like sweat, like the final truth that no one has dared to name. And then Brutus speaks. It is done. 2 words. Soft. Brittle. They do not echo. They simply fall, like a scroll dropped in the dust. No one answers, because what is there to say? Outside the theater of Pompey, Rome stirs, but within these walls, the world has stopped. A breeze moves through the portico. Light filters in. The dust swirls, catching the golden morning as it angles across the stone. And still, no one moves to cover the body. Caesar lies with his eyes half open, one arm flung across his chest, the other curled awkwardly behind him. There is blood between his teeth, and a line across his brow, not of pain, but disbelief. He did not scream. He did not plead. He simply fell. Brutus looks at his hands. This was not supposed to feel like murder, he whispers. Cassius steps beside him. His voice is low. It was not murder. It was mercy. Brutus does not answer. He remembers Caesar's eyes not in the last moment, but long before. Eyes that sparkled when speaking of stars. Eyes that narrowed during debate. Eyes that closed in laughter by candlelight, with wine and friends. And now, they are just eyes. Empty. Dimming. Trebonius stands at the outer edge of the hall, watching the door. Beyond it, he can hear the city waking. Hooves clatter. Wheels scrape stone. Somewhere, a woman calls for her child. But he listens for another sound, the whisper before the storm. He knows it will come. Antony, the people, the breathless messenger who finds a body, but not a meaning. He glances back at the others. We should leave, before the streets decide what this means without us. Cassius nods. Decimus agrees, but Brutus looks once more at Caesar. Then he kneels, not in reverence, not in prayer, but in exhaustion. His voice is hollow. Let them see the blood. Let them see our hands. Let them know it costs us. Cinna answers, they'll call us butchers. Perhaps, Brutus says. Butchers do not tremble. They rise, one by one, slowly, carefully. They move as men unaccustomed to murder, men who wore togas, not armor, who knew law better than war. And yet here they are, blood on their hems, steel beneath their robes, history on their shoulders. The doors open, light floods the hall, warm, blinding, unforgiving. Outside, the crowd gathers. They see the men emerge, Brutus first, his eyes sunken, his hands open, his voice hoarse. Romans, he says, we are free. But silence answers, then a murmur, then a cry, then a ripple through the crowd like a stone thrown into still water. Mark Antony hears it first, not with his ears, but his skin. He is not at the theater. He was led away deliberately, strategically, by Trebonius, with polite conversation and empty gestures, and now he walks, slowly, toward the temple of Jupiter. But his feet stop. He hears the wind change, the breath of the city shift, and then at last, the words spoken by a child. They killed him. Antony does not turn around, not yet. He closes his eyes, and he sees Caesar not as a dictator, not as a general, but as the man who laughed over olives, who wrote poems no one was allowed to read, who spoke of stars and gods and the river Nile with wonder in his voice. Antony opens his eyes, and he walks faster. Close your eyes and stay with me. The sun has not yet fallen, but the shadow it casts over Rome now feels eternal. Caesar lies dead, but something older, deeper, more dangerous has begun to rise, not from the tomb, but from the silence, from the confusion, from the wound in the world. This is not the sound of freedom, not yet. This is the sound of the air being pulled from a city's lungs, the sound of 1,000 people holding their breath, waiting. The theater of Pompey is still. The blood has dried, but the smell lingers: iron, oil, dust. The body has been moved, but the marble remembers. The cracks in the floor seem deeper. The light that filters through the high windows is thin, pale, unsure. Outside, Rome whispers, not in words but in gestures. Doors open slower. Eyes glance upward, then away. Messengers sprint, but say little. In the forum, vendors keep their voices low. A fig seller weeps without knowing why. A baker drops a tray of loaves and lets them lie. Even the temples are quiet. No birds fly above the Capitoline. No dogs bark in the Subura. Even the Tiber moves more slowly. Mark Antony stands at a crossroads, not a physical one, a crossroads of will, of memory, of fury. He has not returned to the theater, not yet, but he knows what lies within. His spies whisper, his servants hear, his instincts confirm. Caesar is gone, not in war, not in glory, but in betrayal. 23 wounds, Brutus, Cassius, Decimus, Cinna, names Antony once toasted, men he once called allies. He stands at the temple of Mars Ultor, gripping the hilt of his gladius. His jaw is locked, his eyes dry. In his mind he sees not the blood but the laughter. He sees Caesar seated at a banquet, teasing a slave girl for her singing. He sees Caesar handing him a scroll saying, "You will lead when I cannot." He sees a friend. And now Rome expects Antony to choose, to lead, to avenge, to burn. He chooses silence, but not in surrender, in preparation. Brutus walks the steps of the Curia Hostilia, the old Senate house, closed today. He walks not as a senator, but as a man chased by his own shadow. He has spoken to the crowd. He has defended his choice, but the people do not cheer. They do not weep. They simply observe. They are watching, and that is worse. He returns home late. Portia meets him in the atrium. Her eyes are swollen. She does not speak, only touches his face. He flinches. She asks no questions, but her silence is full of them. He lies beside her that night, awake. He hears the dogs howling in the distance. He hears the ravens on the roof. He hears the wind moving through the open colonnade. But louder than all, he hears Caesar's voice. Et tu, brute. Not in anger, not in rage, but in disbelief. He presses his palms to his face. He cannot weep. He does not deserve to. At the Capitoline, the Senate meets behind closed doors. There are fewer now. Some fled, some hide, some pretend they were never part of what happened. Cicero is there, silent, pale, thoughtful. He has spoken against Caesar many times, but he did not raise a blade. He listens as Cassius speaks of order, of restoring the republic. He listens as Decimus speaks of honor, of tradition, but Cicero sees the truth. They are afraid of the people, afraid of Antony, afraid of the future. Rome has no map for this moment. There is no precedent for killing a man so loved, so feared, so powerful. A motion is passed to grant amnesty, to avoid civil war, to allow Antony to speak at the funeral. A motion passed not with cheers, but with silence, because the ghost of Caesar is already in the room. After the session ends, Brutus and Cassius speak in the darkened portico. They do not trust us, Brutus says. They fear us, Cassius answers, and that fear must be used. Brutus looks away. I didn't kill a tyrant to wear the crown of his fear. Cassius does not answer. He does not need to. The truth is already between them. On the Aventine, an old woman lights incense to Vesta. She does not know politics, but she knows pain. She prays for her sons both lost in past wars, and she whispers to the flame, "Let them not make fire of him." But the gods are silent and still. The wind turns. The omens begin. A black crow lands in the forum and does not leave. A priest finds blood in the temple water. A statue of victory loses its arm in the night. And the people begin to murmur. Caesar's body lies in a private room now, washed, wrapped, still, but even wrapped in linen, he is not small. Mark Antony enters. No guards, no lictors, just a man, alone. He kneels beside the body, unwraps only the face. He looks, long, hard. He speaks only once. They will pay. He stands, walks to the door, and calls for scribes, for architects, for orators. Plans begin. The next day dawns bright, too bright. The forum is full. The people come, not for the senators, not for Antony, but for him, Caesar. The bier is placed upon the rostra, a golden statue beside it. Laurel wreaths at its feet, his armor beneath. The body lies still, but the city does not. Mark Antony steps forward. He does not read from the Senate's scroll. He reads from his heart. He speaks of Caesar the general, Caesar the builder, Caesar the father of the people. He speaks of his mercy, his vision, his flaws. He does not hide his ambition. He does not deny the power. But he says this: you called him tyrant, yet he gave you bread. You called him king, yet he walked among you. You called him dangerous, yet it was you who cheered his name in every street. And now that voice is gone. He lifts the bloodied toga, holds it high, points to the holes, the tears, the stains. Here was Cassius, here Decimus, here Brutus. Gasps, cries. One woman faints. Antony's voice rises. He loved you, and they murdered him. The silence breaks. First a murmur, then a shout, then then a cry that splits the sky. "Caesar!" Someone throws a torch, then another. The beer catches, the fire climbs, not controlled, not planned, wild, burning. The people surge, tear the benches, feed the flames. Men strip off tunics to throw into the fire. A soldier tosses his sword. The funeral becomes a riot, and Rome begins to boil. Some shout for vengeance. Others shout for Caesar's heir. No one shouts for the Senate. Cassius watches from a window high on the Capitoline. He sees the fire. He sees the smoke. He hears the shouts. And he knows they have lost the people. Brutus sits beside him, still, cold. His voice is distant. He burns now, but we do not yet know if it is his body or the Republic. Cassius says nothing, because silence is all they have left. Close your eyes and travel one day back. The flames have not yet touched the forum. The knives are not yet drawn. The marble of the theater of Pompey remains clean for now. It is the night before the Ides. And in the palatial villa atop the Palatine Hill, Gaius Julius Caesar dines for the last time. The moon is thin and cold. Its light drips over Rome like a forgotten blessing, pooling on rooftops and casting long shadows through open courtyards. Torches flicker in bronze sconces. Servants move like whispers through the halls. The villa breathes with quiet opulence, walls painted with myth, fountains murmuring Latin lullabies, columns reaching upward like marble trees. But beneath the beauty, something stirs, something taut, brittle, waiting to crack. Caesar reclines on a couch of soft cushions in the triclinium, the formal dining room. His guests are few, trusted faces, or so they seem. Oppius, his old friend, Balbus, his secretary, and Dolabella, young and eager, loyal but restless. The air is perfumed with rosewater and roasted lamb. Figs are served first, soft and honeyed, then olives, then fish from the Bay of Neapolis, dusted in herbs. Caesar eats slowly. He has always eaten this way, precise, deliberate, not from vanity, but from habit. A general does nothing in haste. He dips his bread into oil. He speaks little. He listens more. Dolabella makes a joke, something about a senator's bald head. The others laugh. Even Caesar smiles. But it is not the smile of joy. It is the smile of a man who has seen too much, who hears the blade beneath every jest. Calpurnia watches from the doorway. She does not join the feast, not tonight. She stands in shadow, hands clasped before her. She has not slept well. The dreams they returned. Blood in the garden. A statue cracked at the neck. The sound of thunder beneath the marble. She watches her husband chew a fig, and she remembers what the haruspic said that morning, that the omens were unclear, that the entrails were flawed. She turns away. Caesar notices. He always notices. He stands, excuses himself, leaves the warmth of the lamps, the chatter, the food. He finds her in the peristyle garden, alone. The moonlight catches her face. She does not look up. "You dreamed again," he says. She nods. He takes her hand. It is cold. "You are not a priestess?" he teases gently. "No," she says, "but I am your wife." A pause. "Do not go tomorrow." Silence. "Please." He looks at the fountain. The water glimmers like liquid glass. "If I do not go, what happens?" "Nothing." "Exactly." She grips his hand tighter. "Then let nothing happen. Just once." He touches her cheek, then leaves a kiss upon her forehead, not of passion, but of farewell. She knows it, even then. Back in the dining hall, the mood is brighter. Wine flows freely. Musicians play soft tunes on lyre and flute. But Caesar does not return to the couch. He walks instead to his study. There, upon his desk, lies a scroll, anonymous, unsealed. He picks it up, reads, Beware the Senate. He frowns, reads further. They meet early, armed in heart and hand. You are the target. He sets it down, does not call for guards, does not raise an alarm. He has read 1,000 such warnings before. This is Rome. Every man dreams of Caesar's crown or of his corpse. But still, he opens the window, lets the night air in, and whispers, "So be it." Later that night, the house is quiet. The musicians have gone. The wine is gone. The laughter has faded. Caesar walks the halls alone, past murals of conquest, past busts of ancestors. He stops before a statue, his own likeness, staring back. So young, so proud. He does not recognize that face. He walks to the atrium, kneels, and prays, not to Jupiter, not to Mars, to Rome. If I am to fall, let it be swift. Let the pain be brief. Let my name live longer than my breath. He rises, returns to Calpurnia. She sleeps restlessly. He watches her chest rise and fall. He does not lie beside her. He simply stands. Because sleep is not for emperors, not on the eve of death. And somewhere, not far away, a man sharpens a blade. A robe is folded. A dagger is hidden in the hem. Brutus cannot sleep. He stares at the ceiling, at the stars beyond. He clutches a letter. It must be done, for the Republic. His hands shake. Back in Caesar's chamber, a candle burns low. He picks up a stylus, begins to write. He writes to Mark Antony, to Octavian, to the Senate. Words of thanks, words of legacy. Then he stops, takes a fresh scroll, writes a single line. Death is lighter than tyranny. He rolls it, seals it, and places it on his pillow. The night deepens. The city sleeps. The stars pulse. But within the Palatine villa, one man does not sleep. He watches the door. He watches the stars. And he waits. Because tomorrow, he walks into history. And tonight, he dines with destiny. A servant enters in the early hours to stoke the brazier and refill the lamps. He finds Caesar still awake, sitting on a bench in the garden with a cloak wrapped around his shoulders. His eyes scan the horizon, or what little of it can be seen beyond the walls. The servant says nothing, just bows. But Caesar speaks. "Do you believe in fate, Septimus?" The servant hesitates. "I believe in duty, Dominus." Caesar smiles faintly. A good Roman answer. He dismisses him gently and remains seated. From the eastern sky, the first edge of dawn is beginning to press back the stars. Not yet light, but no longer night. Inside, Calpurnia stirs. Her dreams have become visions. She sees Caesar standing over the city with arms outstretched, blood dripping from his palms. She sees the forum empty, the temples cracked. She wakes with a cry. No one is beside her. She runs through the villa, barefoot, finds him sitting still. Her breath catches. "Julius, please, don't go." He rises, wraps her in his arms. They stand like that for a long time, neither speaking, neither moving, just two shadows tangled in moonlight. He whispers into her hair. One last act, then it is finished. She sobs, not loudly, but like the sound of fabric tearing. The household begins to stir. Slaves light the lamps. Bread is baked, horses prepared, the litter readied, the official toga laid out. Not the one with the purple stripe, not today. Today, he wears pure white, unadorned, symbol of the citizen, symbol of the betrayed. He eats nothing, drinks only water. The sky is now bleeding color. The rooftops glow. He steps into the atrium one last time, looks up. The painted ceiling above him stars against a deep blue sea. He imagines them real, feels the weight of Rome pressing down. It is time, he says. And outside, the city begins to wake. Dogs bark, vendors shout, but within the heart of the Palatine, time slows. He takes one last look at his home, at his life, then walks forward. For tomorrow belongs to history, and tonight was its final whisper. Close your eyes and listen, not to the sounds of Rome, but to something older, something colder, the hum beneath the marble, the breath behind the wind, the whisper of the gods when no one is watching. This is not the story of politics, not of knives, not of men. This is the story of signs, of dreams, of warnings, and how no one, not even a god among mortals, can outrun what has already been written in the stars. It begins with birds, not the morning chorus of sparrows or gulls on the Tiber, but with vultures, circling above the field of Mars, silent, watching. A priest, rising early for ritual, sees them first. 7 of them, black wings against a pink sky. He counts again. 7 still. He whispers a prayer, then runs. At the temple of Jupiter, the augurs receive him. They draw their circles in ash and salt. They open the chest of a white ram, search its liver. It is blemished, dark in the wrong places, misshapen. They look at one another. He must not go. But Caesar is already walking, through the colonnade, into the morning, each step deliberate, measured, a man not marching to death, but to duty. His servants trail behind, his lictors ahead. But Calpurnia watches from the doorway. Her lips tremble. Stop him. But no one does. She turns to one last hope, the philosopher Spurina, a man of omens, of dreams, of ancient riddles. He stands beside her, staring at the sky. His voice is low. The Ides are not yet done. And still, Caesar walks. Elsewhere in the city, people murmur. A statue of Minerva cracked at the base. A bronze shield fell from a temple wall. A fire broke out in the slave quarter without cause. And a man unknown, unnamed, ran through the streets shouting, "They murder Caesar!" They caught him, beat him. But when asked his name, he only said, "I am the future." He died at dawn. A scroll is delivered to Caesar as he approaches the theater of Pompey. Written hastily, no seal, it warns him by name, names the senators, names the plot. He does not open it. He tucks it inside his toga. His mind is on the sky. On the way, the wind has shifted. On the way, the birds refuse to sing. Inside the theater, shadows gather. Men wait. They sweat beneath their robes. They whisper, fidget, breathe too fast. Brutus stands apart. His hands are cold, but his heart burns. Not with hate, but with conflict. He remembers his dream, the night before. Caesar crowned in lightning, then struck by it. He woke screaming. Cassius told him it was just guilt. Dreams are for children. But Brutus remembers the look on Caesar's face. Right before the thunder. It was not pride, it was peace. In another part of the city, a Sibyl speaks, old, blind, forgotten. She rocks before her altar. Today the world tilts, she chants. Today the wolf eats the sun. Today the mouth of Rome opens wide. No one listens, except a child, a girl. She clutches her mother's hand. "Mama," she says, "why does the earth feel like it's waiting?" Her mother does not answer, because she feels it too. Even the wind speaks. A soldier standing guard outside the curia rubs his arms. The air is too still. It smells like iron, like blood before it's spilled. He mutters a prayer to Mars, touches the hilt of his sword. He will not use it today, but his fingers linger. Caesar enters the theater. The sun slips behind a cloud. Shadows lengthen. His footsteps echo. And the scroll in his toga, the one he did not read, slides slightly. The seal cracks. But the words never reach him. History folds the warning into silence. Above it all, Rome holds her breath. Not in reverence, not in fear, but in recognition. Because some part of her, the stones, the columns, the ancient trees already knows. That today ends everything and begins something darker, something Rome will never outrun, and the dreams will never end, because the gods are watching, and their silence is not mercy. It is memory, and memory, in Rome, is eternal. As the morning stretches across the 7 hills, the signs only multiply. The Tiber runs sluggish and brown, as if mourning. A flock of crows circles over the temple of Saturn and lands upon the roof, one by one, before scattering in a loud, chaotic shriek that echoes down the stone streets. Market stalls are unusually quiet. No arguments, no laughter, only hushed tones, whispers of rumors. Something is coming, they say. The butcher forgets to weigh the meat. The tailor closes early. Even the pickpockets work more slowly today. At the temple of Apollo, a young girl collapses during a hymn. She wakes gasping, her voice caught in her throat. She cries, "The sun dies! The sun dies!" Her father carries her home, face pale as parchment. At the same time, a column topples in a minor earthquake no one felt, as if the gods themselves breathed too hard. The Vestal virgins perform their morning rites in trembling silence. The sacred fire flickers strangely, defying the breeze. One of the sisters drops the incense bowl. It shatters across the floor, scattering ashes like omens. Back in the theater of Pompey, a guard at the outer steps looks upward and swears he sees a face in the clouds. Not a human face. Something larger, stranger, watching. When he blinks, it's gone. But the feeling remains. He tightens his grip on his spear. Meanwhile, Spurinna walks the narrow alleys of Rome. He carries nothing but a palm branch and a single wax tablet. His eyes scan the doorways and rooftops. He watches for patterns, for shadows, for moments when the world feels wrong. And today, all of it feels wrong. At one corner, he stops. A black dog lies dead in the gutter, stiff, not killed, just gone. At another, he watches a child toss stones. One bounces off a shrine. The child's hand begins to bleed a single drop. Spurinna writes nothing. He only nods. The Ides, he murmurs, have found their sacrifice. And then he turns away. In the palace of Caesar's mother's family, an old nurse named Livia sets bread on a plate. She places honey beside it. She has done this for decades. It is a ritual for protection one taught to her by her own mother, who once served the Julii before they were powerful. "Eat sweet things before the gods can taste your blood," she mutters. But she does not smile today, because she dreamed the night before of a white bull weeping blood from its eyes, and she knows what that means. Even the slaves in the kitchens cook quietly. No clanging pots, no songs, only the slow scraping of knives against cutting boards. Even they have heard the rumors, the omens, the cold wind that blows from nowhere. One servant boy drops a jug of oil. It shatters. The oil spills into the shape of a circle, and someone whispers, "A crown." As Caesar approaches the inner chamber of the Senate, the light changes. Clouds pass over the sun. The marble beneath his feet seems to pulse. He feels it not in fear, but in instinct, the way a soldier feels the air before a battle. He pauses at the threshold. A raven caws, loud, once, and then the door opens, and the dreams end. Or perhaps they only just begin. Close your eyes and imagine silence, not the quiet of sleep, not the hush of a temple, but the silence that comes after something vital has been torn away. Rome still stands. The stones have not cracked. The aqueducts still flow. The statues remain perched upon pedestals. But something is gone. Something deep beneath the marble, the heartbeat of a man who had come to believe he was Rome. Caesar is dead, and the city that once echoed with his voice now listens to ghosts. The Ides have passed, but the shadow they cast remains. The body has been burned, the Forum blackened, the Senate fractured, and somewhere in the smoke 1,000 ambitions stir. Mark Antony does not sleep. He stands at his window, watching the city as torches flicker along the streets. Below, Romans move in tight knots, anxious, angry, uncertain. Some mourn, some celebrate, some simply wait. He remembers the flames of the funeral pyre, how the crowd had surged, how the shouts had grown into roars, how Brutus and Cassius fled like thieves. He remembers the way the bloodied toga had felt in his hands, the heat of the fire, the silence that came after. Now he must move, not in grief, but in strategy. Tomorrow he will call the people. Tomorrow he will remind them who Caesar named as heir. Tomorrow the Republic will meet its reckoning. But tonight he watches. Brutus walks a villa garden far from the city walls. Each footstep sounds too loud. Each breeze feels like judgment. He has not spoken since the escape, not even to Cassius, not even to Portia. He touches the leaves of an olive tree and remembers standing beside Caesar in the Senate years ago, listening to Cicero debate. A republic is not a man, Caesar had said once, after. It is a mirror. But Brutus wonders, what if the man was the reflection? What if they shattered the mirror and left the world blind? Portia finds him there. She does not scold, does not question. She simply asks, "And now?" He has no answer, because now they have nothing but exile and fear. That night, Brutus dreams again. He sees Caesar standing in a field of ash. The sky is dark, and the ground cracks with fire beneath their feet. Caesar says nothing. He only stares. The look is not rage. It is sorrow, disappointment. Brutus wakes, drenched in sweat, his mouth dry, his heart pounding against his ribs like a prisoner in a cell. He finds no peace in daylight. Portia watches him from across the room, the curve of her mouth turned down, her eyes rimmed with weariness. She asks if he still believes in what he did. Brutus closes his eyes. "I believed it would save Rome," he whispers. "And now?" she asks. "Now I believe. I only buried her hopes with him." Cassius drinks, more than before. His goblet is always full, his hands always shaking. He paces the halls of the villa like a lion in a cage. When he speaks, his voice is sharp, bitter. He rants about Antony, about how the people have betrayed them, how the Republic can still be restored if only they strike again. But it is bluster. Brutus sees it in the way Cassius avoids the windows, in the way he flinches at thunder, in the way he speaks Caesar's name only when drunk. One evening, as torches gutter in the courtyard and the shadows grow long, Cassius explodes. "We did what had to be done," he yells, slamming his hand on the table. "Would you rather Rome be ruled by a king, by a god in human skin?" Brutus does not answer. Cassius glares at him. "You doubt it now? After everything?" Brutus rises slowly. "I doubt everything now." And for the first time, Cassius's fire falters. His eyes shine not with rage, but grief. He sits down, rubs his temples, breathes heavily. "I thought I was saving the world," Cassius says, voice cracking. "But now I see Caesar in every shadow. I hear him in the wind. I see his blood on my hands, and it doesn't wash away." Brutus nods. "We have become the tyrants we feared." They sit in silence. Two men who killed a god and found only ghosts in return. In the streets of Rome, things begin to shift. Posters appear, edicts nailed to doors. Coins melt and are recast with Caesar's image on one side and a burning comet on the other. A symbol, a message. Caesar is not gone. He rises. The people whisper of his soul joining the gods, of thunder that follows his name, of a boy Octavian who carries his blood. The son of Caesar comes, they say. He will avenge. And vengeance is what Rome understands. Octavian stands on a balcony in Naples, the scroll in his hand trembling slightly. "You are named heir," it reads, "to his wealth, to his name, to his cause." He is young, barely a man, but his eyes are steady, his voice clear. "Then I will go to Rome." His advisors protest. Antony has the army. The Senate still breathes. It is too dangerous. But Octavian only says, "He gave me his name. That is enough." And beneath the stars, he makes a vow. "I will take back what was stolen. I will raise his ashes into empire. I will not be forgotten." And in that moment, Rome begins to turn. Cicero sits in his study, scrolls stacked high, ink staining his fingers. He is restless, wary. He had hoped for peace, for a return to the old ways, but already he sees the cracks. Antony moves like a king. Octavian rises like a flame. The Republic is not returning. It is retreating. He dips his pen and writes, "The tyrant is dead." But tyranny was not buried with him. It breathes through the ambitions of those who claim to love the people. And the people, they cheer. Gods help us. He sets the scroll aside, closes his eyes, and dreams of a Rome that may never be again. In the temples, the priests light incense, but even the gods seem subdued. Omens blur, birds fall silent. The flame of Vesta flickers sideways in the wind. A child is born beneath the full moon. He is given the name Julius. The midwife crosses herself 3 times. In Subura, a fire breaks out. No cause, no warning. Some say it is Caesar's spirit angry. Others say it is the Republic collapsing. But most say nothing. They simply watch the smoke rise and wonder what comes next. Rome without Caesar is not silent, but it is hollow. The statues still stand, the laws still pass, the rituals continue, but without belief, without breath, the soul is gone. And in its place, ambition grows. Whispers become declarations. Alliances shift like sand. And above it all, the people wait. Not for the return of the Republic, but for the birth of something new. They do not know its name, not yet. But history will. Empire. Close your eyes. And listen not to what is said, but to what is not. The shouts have died. The torches have gone out. The pyre has cooled to ash. The banners have fallen. What remains is silence. Not peace, not rest, but a silence filled with ghosts, with memories, with names whispered into stone. This is not the silence of mourning. It is the silence of reckoning, of Rome holding its breath. Caesar is gone, and yet he is everywhere. His image is carved into marble, his name still chiseled into arches, into coins, into history itself. The people speak of him in markets. Priests invoke his name in prayer. Children whisper his story by firelight. He is not absent. He is eternal. And that is what frightens them most. For how can you bury a man who refuses to stay dead? In the Senate, the chairs remain, but the voices that filled them no longer argue with the same fire. They pass laws, yes. They hold sessions, yes. But the passion is gone. Each man watches the others. Each word is measured. Every loyalty is a question. Every alliance is a mask. Cicero stands at the podium and sees the future, and it does not belong to orators. It belongs to soldiers, to heirs, to shadows. Mark Antony walks the city like a lion uncaged. He is no longer content to wait. He speaks in the forum. He marches through the Senate's halls. The people chant his name, but with each step he takes, another shadow grows behind him. Octavian. The boy has returned, and he brings with him something even Antony cannot command: the legitimacy of blood, Caesar's heir, not in politics, not in philosophy, but in flesh. Brutus and Cassius are gone, fled to the east, to gather men, to gather swords, to gather the last gasps of a dying republic. They write letters, they make speeches, but the words fall flat, because the silence they left behind in Rome has grown too loud. Portia walks the halls alone. She does not cry, she writes. We killed one man, but in doing so, we gave birth to 10,000 tyrants. She folds the letter, seals it, then burns it, because the words no longer matter, only the silence. The streets are different now. The colors are more muted. The steps are more cautious. The baker still opens his stall. The potter still molds his clay. The farmer still hauls his wheat to the forum. But none of them speak as freely. None of them laugh as loudly, because they remember the fire, the day Caesar burned, the smoke that curled like a crown. And they wonder if it was not the man that burned, but the world they thought they knew. In secret corners, the legions gather. Oaths are made. Blades are sharpened. Octavian rides among them quiet, steady. Antony does too louder, bolder. They speak of justice, of Rome, of legacy. But the silence speaks louder still. It whispers, war. At the temple of Mars altar, a boy kneels. His hands are small, his eyes wide. He lights a candle for Caesar, not because he knew him, but because the city no longer feels like home. His mother stands behind him. She does not pray. She watches the flames. Will he come back? The boy asks. She shakes her head. No, she says, but what comes because of him has already begun. And together they watch the candle flicker, until it goes out. In the distance, thunder, not from the sky, but from the ground. Boots, marching, horses, wagons, armor. The silence is ending, and in its place comes the storm. Rome will never be the same, because some silences are not for mourning. They are for transformation. And in the silence that followed Caesar, the Republic died, and the Empire awoke. And so ends the story of the Ides of March, not with triumph, but with silence. Not with freedom, but with the birth of something far more powerful and enduring. Thank you for walking with me through these final hours of Julius Caesar and witnessing the moment when the Roman Republic breathed its last. If this journey into one of history's most pivotal days has moved you, please subscribe and ring that notification bell for more ancient mysteries for sleep. Next week, we continue our exploration of power and betrayal with The Last Days of Cleopatra, Egypt's Final Queen, the story of how the most famous woman in the ancient world met her end, and how her death sealed the fate of an empire that had endured for 3,000 years. Until then, rest peacefully knowing that even in the darkest moments of human betrayal, history teaches us about the price of power, the weight of friendship, and the eternal struggle between ambition and honor. Good night, and may your dreams be filled with the wisdom that comes from understanding our past.